And here we are live for season 2. And this is episode 2 of the Bad Filipino podcast. I'm your host, Myki Angeline. And I'm just so thrilled and excited and just happy to have Sally Forcier of Forcier Casting in the building. And are we crazy to have a live podcast the day after the election? I just thought about that like this morning.
Well, hopefully we're bringing them a little bit of distraction, right?
Yes, more than anything, here is a little distraction. So for the next 30, 40 minutes, we'll see how it goes. We are going to talk about, because I want to bring to everybody all the incredible work Sally Forcier has done for Sacramento in the film movie industry, and the film she's worked on. And I call it BC, before COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you've been working so hard at everything. And you and I know her because I've been in a couple of your movies as an extra, right?
Mm-hmm.
So before we get into all of that, and you got some really great news to announce on a couple of forefronts. But before we get to that, why don't you share with everybody, what has it been like for you since the COVID, and then we'll go into your awesome background with how you even got into
film. Absolutely. Well, COVID has been interesting. I think like everybody else, I really had to face my challenge of having a positive attitude, which I try to have all the time, and to keep the faith, and I think at the end of the day, it's times like this that's challenging you to get back to your roots, get back to family and the things that matter most. I was off of work technically about 4.5, almost 5 months, like nothing, right? I mean, I had a couple of productions I was in pre-development for, one that was supposed to shoot in March, and another in April. But I think what happens is when you're alone with your thoughts, amazing things can really actually happen. And I am a coach. We'll talk about that as well. But I also believe in coaching. So I have a coach as well. And I leaned into that. I really dove deep into what was coming up for me, emotionally, physically, financially, all those things. And then I just started going, well, how can I turn this into a positive? Well, everybody who knows me knows that I am always busy and running with the wind. Like I just constantly have plates spinning, And so it just kind of allowed me, it was a gift of time. And so therefore I dove deep into a couple of projects that, we could chat about that I can do from home, and took my coaching to online coaching. So I did end up starting to work back in, I think late June, early July. But, I think this life is too short to be depressed or upset by the things we cannot change. Right. It's kind of like that serenity prayer, grant me the serenity or whatever to accept the things I cannot change. And so COVID was one of those. And so I'm just grateful to be on the other side of that, and have come through with some positive things to share with those that I work closely with in my talent base.
Look at you, man. See, that was already inspiring just listening to you say all of that, and that's,
okay, we're done. Let's just call it
we're
a day
done.
then.
That was so perfect. But honestly, I resonate extremely with you on that, because what COVID did for all of us, it really made us look within, reflect,
right,
and get in survival mode. Right. And what do we do with that survival mode? So creatives like yourself and myself, we find it as opportunity to, now that I don't have to run in with 1,000 candles burning at the same time,
right,
here's some time to hone, here's some time to perfect, here's some time to work on the parts that needed working on, but I set it aside because I just kept pushing forward.
right.
And especially the industry that you're in, with acting, film, I mean, music and live performances were hit so hard, but film also, I mean, anyone who's been streaming your favorite Hulu and your Netflix, you've noticed how seasons have not continued,
Right.
or postponed, or just didn't bother because of COVID.
Yep.
I mean, and before we get into, because I want everyone to know, well, no, let's just get into it, because you've worked on some pretty key films that were done right here in Sacramento, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I, have been producing for about 12 to 13 years, I guess. Everybody always knew me as casting, but I've been producing for over a decade. And in the last 3.5 years, I've been able to produce as well as cast 5 films. And in fact, 3.5 years with 5 films, I was constantly in pre-pro or production or post-production. And it was exciting and challenging and fun and all of those things. 2 of them are actually streaming now. One that you're in, and the other one was a horror film called Apparition. So a third film is going to come out in streaming, I believe, February-ish, and that's called Notorious Nick. So yeah, it's been, I mean, what a joy, what a privilege it's been to be able to produce in my backyard. And I think being in the industry and, with technology being what it is, you can work from anywhere. You don't have to be in LA. I chose to stay here because I was raising my daughter. I was a single mom, and I just couldn't imagine ripping her away from family here in Sacramento to move down to LA to be in casting. So I believe I made the right choice.
And as a mom, I feel you on that one. Decisions that we make to be responsible parents because we know we're responsible for another life and crafting that life into their own. I did the same thing on different career moves, not counting, before I got into doing, speaking in the music industry, I stuck here because of my kid. I'm right there with you. And I get that. And, we as moms, we make it work.
You do.
So, and hats off to you for that, because guys, there's just so much I want to touch on why you're so awesome. Not just what I think, but you are. But give a little.
I hang out with you every day, girl.
Well, yeah, but see, this I'm relishing this because I'm telling you all, Sally works 200%. I might have been an extra on 2 films with her, but I almost never saw her because the woman was constantly working like a workhorse, like so inspirational. But give a little insight. What does it mean when you're producing a film? Like, you can even pick one of them to kind of walk us through what it takes and the importance of it.
Yeah, I'll touch on. I'll touch on 2 of the films that you guys could see now, right? So Apparition is a horror movie. It was great because this was the first Halloween it was available, and so Apparition was filmed up at the Preston Castle in Ione. The most haunted castle in California, and I can testify to that. It's crazy haunted. Ooh. And so in that capacity, so I had the title of co-producer on both Apparition and then Ballbuster, which is the movie that you also worked on. And that is with Jerry O'Connell and a ton of all-star comedian cast, Luenell, Bobby Slayton, the Pitbull comedy. I mean, hilarious movie.
I remember him. I could not believe you got him. I already was like floored that you got Jerry O'Connell, but then when you got Bobby Slater, I know exactly who that motherfucker. He is amazing. Oh my God.
I was nervous to be around him. I was just worried he was going to lash out at me at any given time. And you're right. I was working so hard. I was tired. I was exhausted. I was spinning. Even though I was with him, my mind was going, I got to get to this. I got to get to that, so I had to be really aware of like, don't piss this guy off, because he is the pit bull. He'll bite your head off. But anyway, the movie opens with Bobby Slayton and Jerry O'Connell. It's great. It will not opens, but one of the first scenes. Anyway, so both of those films, I was co-producer, and basically in a production, a producer can mean many different things. Okay. You also hear executive producers and you assume they're like the financer. So I was executive producer on Notorious Nick, the one that's coming out this spring. But I was actually not that kind of a producer, executive producer, where I was an investor. I was actually very involved with all the executive above the line things and working with talent and things like that. So just the title itself is very kind of a gray area of like, what exactly do you do? It's pretty much like when I'm putting together a crew, I try to find the right people for the right job. And in that case, as a co-producer, they used my talents as best they could. So I handled all the SAG, Screen Actor Guild paperwork, which is a lot of juggling with that. I had a team of about 5 people at work that I worked with that I would delegate to. But overall, I oversaw the SAG paperwork. I worked with all the talent, coordinating all their travel, hotels, airfare, foods, diets, like managing all the talent side of it. So all, everybody involved. And then I also did the day-to-day. So I was on set making sure, things were running smoothly. I kind of jokingly called myself the firefighter because I was putting out fires all day long, and then with that, you're also kind of babysitting. So I was a babysitter and a firefighter. It was great.
That was exhausting just hearing.
Yeah,
And there
it's
is
a lot.
there is a balance that takes for that,
Yeah.
because how and you're dealing with different multi-level of actors, from, mainstream, national, well-known, to your up and coming, to your extras. And there's different levels you have to, at any given time, be on it right then
Yes.
for it
And
to be
with
successful.
apparition, yeah, I mean, and I cast for all these too. So in my team, I had my casting team and I had my production team that I worked with directly to kind of make all those things. So I appreciate you saying all of those amazing things. And yes, I was running around like a crazy woman most of the time on productions, but I also had a great team behind me to make it possible to do all that casting. Because if you think about, like, so Apparition wasn't a huge cast, but it was starring Kevin Pollak, which we all know and love. If you've
Yes.
seen The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, he's on in that, and as well as Tony Shalhoub. I love Tony. I've worked with Tony on his show. Anyway, in San Francisco, but with all those responsibilities of casting, because sometimes you go into a movie and you're still casting, you're still dealing with extras, you're dealing with making sure the talent has their call sheet, they know when to show up. And so there's all the responsibilities that come with that. But yeah, I think, at the end of the day, it thrills me to be a part of a production as any type of producer, co-producer, or above. And the reason why is I love the creation part of it. And, it's similar to music, right? It's like, if you wrote a song and you actually get to carry it through to, producing it, marketing it, and then performing it. I mean, it's kind of the whole gamut. And that's what being a part of the production is like, is you're actually in the trenches every single day. And yet at the same time, you're always thinking 2 steps ahead. And I think some of the qualities that I would say, if anybody out there listening is interested in production, to know if they would make a good producer, is basically similar to project management. You're always trying to put out fires before the fire's there. You're 2 steps ahead. And so yeah, it was quite a bit of work, but well worth it. And so cool to be able to see it on screen, especially knowing it's available for the world to see. It's very exciting.
That's got to feel so good. And, going back to 5 films in 3 years, and all 5 films really being different from the other. I
Yes.
mean, how great was that? And we'll move into the fact, another praise for you in the fact that you work with such a diverse amount of casting when it comes to, gender, to, heritage and race, and identification. It's like, I love that about you, right? Because that's something that is lacking. It's getting better, but for the longest time lacked in traditional mainstream film and movie. So you went from Apparition, which is a horror film, Ballbuster, which I was in with you, comedy with comedians. I mean, that's even in itself, right? You've got a comedy with a bunch of comedians, but then you also, you did Traffik, which was a very important subject about human trafficking, which unfortunately Sacramento is always like high on the list for that. So that wasn't important. And then Notorious Nick, which is about a famous fighter,
True story.
one-hand fighter, true story.
One-handed MMA champion.
Yes. And so, I mean, you had these unique, different experiences kind of going almost, it seems, either one right after the other or kind of overlapping. How did you keep yourself? And this is, I think, so important to go into, because then it'll kind of bleed into coaching, right?
Yeah.
How did you manage to stay 100% in each project and focused when you needed to be focused?
Girl, that's a loaded question.
Right?
I mean, any woman, especially a woman who's been a single mom, so you have to be. I mean, we generally are good at multitasking, better than men, but
it's true.
But you have to be able to manage multiple things, and I think I look back on my career and I'm like so grateful for all the ups and the downs, because I've learned probably more from the upsets, the struggles, the challenges, obstacles that I had to overcome as a small woman in business, and small woman, so a woman in small business. But
right. Well, you are short like me. It's okay. You're a powerhouse.
I'm challenged there. But I think the best thing I can say is knowing my priorities, because in production everything's important. It's like my to-do list was already, was growing every day. And as much as I tried to accomplish and get things done, it was still more was coming at me all the time. And it was, so, for all those who worked on the sets that I was running around like a crazy woman, please understand it wasn't personal if I didn't stop and talk to you. But you're literally dealing with 10 things that are critical, and you just have to pick the one that's the most critical to deal with, and just do your best to chunk it down. I mean, I can't tell you how many times our quote when we were having stressful days was, "Hey, we're making movie magic." It was like, that would make me smile and remind me what this is all about.
Yes. Putting it back in perspective. Yes.
Yeah.
Good for you to do that.
I had a really great team. Kathy Partak was one of them that would, "Hey girl, you're making movie magic." I go, "Thank you." Like, she was a huge support. Desaline, Kathy, Tanya, my girls were amazing to just support me through this, because honestly, without them, I probably wouldn't have been able to survive. John DeMacus, he was part of Apparition. He was part of Ballbuster.
I know him. I've worked with him.
Yeah, he's great.
He is so great.
Very talented actor, but he was always there for me if I needed help on the set. And he'd show up like in the middle of the Ballbuster. You worked, did you work in the extra scenes at the Golden One? I know you did not. Okay. So we were at the Golden One Center for 3 days. We were the first movie production to be there. And I remember, everybody's like, "How many extras do we have?" I go, "Well, since we're not paying them," because we didn't have a budget for that.
Right.
So everybody did it for experience. And I appreciate 100% of everybody's efforts, because there's no way you can make a movie without extras. I mean, they're so critical.
I learned
that. Yeah, exactly. And here we are at the Golden One Center trying to fill it up like it looks like an NBA game. I mean,
yes,
it was impossible. Plus, people had to park downtown. Take a full day off of work, in the middle of the weekday. It was a challenge. And so, I called in John DeMacus and I said, "Hey, I need help. Like, my team is already allocated in production or dealing with, look at all the extras that have to be in a basketball team. Those are what you did, is the featured extra. You had a uniform. We saw your face.
I made a basket.
You made a basket.
We'll go back to that in a second. But yes, because I remember that scene in the Golden One, and you did a great job of making it seem like it was like 50,000 people there.
Pack them in there until I bring 3 changes of clothes, bring hats and sunglasses so we can make it look like they're different. It was crazy.
And I've been an extra in 3 films here in Sacramento, 2 with you. So once I've done that, I watch movies with a totally different lens now.
Right? Exactly.
I will actually pay attention, even on TV shows. I will pay attention to the extras because I know what it takes now, right? Thanks to you.
I apologize to my husband every time I go, I am the worst person to watch a movie with, because I'm always looking at that stuff and I'm paying, especially my own. I'm like picking it apart. Like, remember that day, wow, that was a crazy day.
I remember, because the first one I did with you was Traffik. That was actually such a fun day because there were a lot of people I already knew that were part of it. So we at least all got to hang out, because there's a lot of waiting in between your scenes.
Now you know why they say hurry up and wait.
Hurry up and wait. So and I remember I'm in with many of your dancers in that opening scene before that woman is kidnapped.
Right.
And we redid that scene at least 11 times for a 1 minute, 20-second scene.
Right.
But you have to, because the director and you, and you're looking at the bigger picture of a whole film. Right. So they're having to create this magic, and the rest of us just have to trust that magic, because we didn't write it. We don't know what to expect. Yeah. We have to take the direction. And there was what in the wardrobe, and then, okay, that'll work. Like, I had to stand there and then, okay, that works, or remove that or add that. And then all of that. And it's just me. So I thought, oh, this is incredible. Like, I soaked it all in. So then by the time Ballbuster came, I was a pro. No, I'm kidding.
That's right.
But I tell you, you worked with so many actors, and it was Jerry O'Connell. Let me just say,
man crush.
Well, I mean, because I've loved him since Stand By Me.
Exactly.
I'm 52, so these movies I grew up with, right?
Right.
And then he's done his little movies in there, and then of course his claim to fame for a lot of people was Jerry Maguire.
Mm-hmm. Cush.
I know, right? And then all of a sudden, I'm in this movie, And I get paired. I didn't make it. It just happened that I got to be next to him in the scene. What?
And you want to tell everybody what he said to you?
Yes. Okay. So those of you who are actors who can appreciate this, I couldn't, not as an actor, until I had to ask somebody. So here we are. It's a basketball scene, and there's a lot of basketball that was played for the little that was shown. Mm-hmm. And so what is it called? Like I'm D'ing up against them, like we're paired up for the tip off. Right. And he whispers to me, he says, "Hey, don't worry. I'll make sure you're in a lot of scenes." And I honestly didn't know what that meant. I was like, okay, cool. And I just thought, I'll just go with it. Cause I'm like, I'm standing next to her. Like I'm fangirling, trying to act like it ain't no big deal, yeah. And, we do our scenes and I'm like, you see me in those scenes, like that one where before he gets past and, Marcus Allen's in that scene, you see me and you can tell cause of my hair tips, it's me. I'm in all these scenes. I went and asked somebody later. I'm like, what did he mean? And they're like, girl, he's letting you know that because he's the famous actor here, he's going to make sure that you shine bright in any scene you're in with him. He's basically being humble about. I was like, oh my God.
Yes.
And could I not love this guy on like a third level now? Exactly. Because Jerry, you're like, if you're watching this, you are a stand-up great effing guy who happens to be a really great actor.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, he really is. I'll tell you, for his stardom, because he's a household name, you know, everybody knows Jerry O'Connell. When we landed Jerry for this movie, I mean, I was starstruck, and I don't get starstruck very easily. I mean, I worked with Sean Penn. I was a little starstruck with him, but like, other than that, it's like, they're just people and they've had their own journey. What I loved about that story you shared is the fact that this man grew up in the business, right? Yeah. A huge movie. Stand By Me is huge.
Huge.
Still, parents have their kids watch that movie. It's crazy. Yeah,
it's so good.
And so when he said that to you, that reminded me that he still remembers what it's like for the struggling actor. Bingo. Assuming you were an actor, obviously you didn't even know what that meant when he said that. But
I mean, I love doing what I do, but I hats off to those that are really pushing to make this a career. So yeah, you're right. He remembered. He was paying it forward.
And I'll tell you, every other aspect of working with him was a joy. He didn't want us doting on him at all. He didn't want us. I asked him if I can book him a flight when we had an extra day off for him so he can go home because that's the other thing about being in Sacramento. We're so close to LA. He can easily get on an hour flight and go see his family for 2 days when he's been, because he was in almost every scene. So he was literally on set all the time. And that was about 3 weeks, I believe. We shot that movie in 3 weeks. Can you believe that?
No. Are you serious?
No, I'm serious.
That's fast.
Yeah. It was supposed to be a 24-day shoot, and I think we wrapped at 18. Like, we were ahead of schedule. And that never happens. That means that's how hard our crew worked. But what's cool about him is he's an example that he's just human, just like everybody else, and saying that what he said to you and how he treated he said hello to every extra. He greeted him when he walked in the room. If anybody asked a question, like, he was just a really cool guy. And I appreciated that from behind the scenes perspective, knowing, like the point you made, how many things I have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, doing casting for a very large crew, cast, and then all the extras. And on top of it, doing the co-production side of things, all the other management. And he just made my life so much easier, just being a cool guy. So let that be an example to anybody who gets on a big movie and makes it big. Just
please
be humble and be kind to other people, and it will go a long, long way.
Be like Jerry.
Jerry.
So let's touch a little bit on your position as a coach, and then let's do the big reveal of the two announcements. Well, one of them you kind of did, the other one you kind of didn't later. So in coaching, what you want to give, like maybe a tip or two?
Yeah. I mean, I think, first of all, it's very important to me to help motivate and encourage people to follow their dreams. I mean, I'm an example of that. I did not realize, starting out as an actor in my early 20s, I didn't start young. I thought I was getting a late start. I didn't realize the path that I was about to take and be on, because it really the reason why it turned into a career is just because I was open to any aspect of the industry. So if you're an actor or want to be an actor, I do provide consulting. So like I can answer all the questions that you might have before you spend a dime on headshots or training or any of that. So I think that's important, that people understand what they're getting into before they dive deep. And then as far as coaching, this is where I get my creative outlet too, is working with an actor, teaching them, because I have the 3 pillars of my business is production, casting, and I've been casting for 21 years, my anniversary last month.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And then the coaching. So with those being the 3 pillars, I have a different perspective as an acting coach. I teach people what it's like to be in the casting room, understanding the different types of auditions. And then we do all the audition types in training. And right now it's all via Zoom and video, because even auditions aren't happening live very often. They usually kind of wait till you get to the callback level and then maybe bring you in and social distance and all that stuff. But so virtually is the way to make sure you understand how to be on camera, where to look into the camera and not, at the screen, because that's a natural thing to want to do. But yeah, I love coaching. It helps me kind of stay in touch with my creative, because I started as an actor. And from acting, I went into working for my talent agent, and then while I was still acting. And then when I left there, I started consulting actors first. That's actually where my business started. And about 6 months later, I don't know about you, but I believe totally in the law of attraction. Like I didn't realize it.
I do.
But now looking back at my career, it was all the law of attraction. It was, to sum that up, it's basically, putting out what you think you want to do, and then watch for the doors to open, because they will come back to you.
Setting that intention. Yeah.
Exactly. And so for me, I was like, God, there just really needs to be another casting director here in Sacramento. At the time, there were 2, and one was kind of fading out. The other was questionable, and I'll just leave it at that. And and I had been working at a talent agency, so I have worked with other casting directors that were reputable and great. And I'm like, God, there just needs to be another casting director here. And about 6 months into my consulting, I said that, and I literally got a call in 3 days, like some random guy who's looking for extras for a pool commercial. And he says, I hear you meet with actors and you might have some actors you can help me cast. And I'm like, that's the weirdest thing. Like, is Big Brother watching? It was kind of crazy. And that's how I got into casting. And that's when I saw, I like it. And I love helping others achieve their dreams and their goals. And the same happened with production. It's like, I really want to produce. I feel like in casting, I'm out of the loop so early. Like the project's just starting, and I'm now, okay, thank you for your casting. Bye.
Right. And you're done.
And so I was like, I kind of want to be more involved. And literally an opportunity knocked. And that's honestly, that's when the real work starts. So if you're an actor and you're like just tipping your toe in the water, once you start the process, that's when it becomes like, okay, now you have to set those intentions daily. You have to work on your craft daily, if not, several times a week, and train. And right now, I think for most people, even if you're still social distancing and staying home a lot, that's the one thing you can do. You can get online and train and work with coaches virtually. You can still pull scenes or sides off the internet and practice scenes on your own and work on monologues. I mean, there's so much you can do during this time.
You are so well-rounded. I love it, because as a coach, you pull from being an actor and producing. As a producer, you pull from coaching and acting. And should you decide to do a cameo or something, as an actor, you can pull from coaching and producing. You're so well-rounded. I love that.
Thank you.
You're staying relevant, and you're staying in the game.
Yeah. I really feel like, anytime, especially if you're working with a coach, anytime you're doing something that's current, it's going to keep you ahead of the game. Yeah. Wearing 3 different hats like that, three different pillars in my industry, just makes sense to me. Some people are like, why do you do so many things? And I'm like, well, it makes sense. I mean, think about it. In my casting, if I know I'm providing great training out there and people are learning great qualities, that's going to help the casting side of things. Yes. Right. And then when I'm hired as a producer on a project, one of the perks is I come with also, thousands of actors that are in my database and the casting knowledge, so I think it all really works well together. but it also keeps me busy. I'm not in LA. I'm not, casting 10 different jobs at one time, like some casting offices down in LA are doing.
I can't even imagine.
When you come to an audition, you're seeing me. You might also see my assistants and my session directors, but you're seeing me. I mean, I'm very hands-on with everything.
Very
I do.
organic, hands-on. And for someone who's not an actor, I didn't realize how much I appreciated that till you just opened my eyes to the fact that in somewhere bigger like LA or New York, it wouldn't be like that.
Right. And it's like, wow, you're actually going to be at the casting? Like, yeah, like I have to see this stuff. I can't just trust somebody else. That's the hard thing, I think, as a business owner. Maybe you can relate to this too, is it's hard to trust somebody else to know what I have learned in, 25 years of being in the business. I've actually been able to now, start teaching. I have a really great new staffer. Her name's Savannah, and she's great. So I'm hoping to really start trusting to delegate and offload.
That's a hard one, right? That's control freaks with their own businesses. Your name's on the marquee. Exactly. So, and then congratulations, moving on to 21 years of celebrating.
Yeah.
So what's new, exciting. Right? Your website's updated.
I have a new website. Thank you. I'm really excited. I literally just launched it. We already had this set up, and I think you were so stoked to find out, oh, you just launched a website. We can talk about it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. See, I'm not always thinking about marketing myself. So if you go to forciercasting.com, which I think she has it right there on the screen. Yeah. This is what's so cool. I mean, my old website was ancient, and I have probably for about 5 years talked about getting my new website. I had other conversations, almost started a couple of years ago.
You keep talking. I'm going to share that screen. Go ahead.
And really about a year ago, I finally said, that's it. I got to do this. Well, then COVID hit. So I'm like, I was in kind of pre-development of like going through, there it is, going through who's that girl?
Who's that girl?
I was already in conversations of like the look and the feel. So we have a brand new logo. You'll see it's different colors. So I used to have the orange like you do, but this one is red and black, and it's just powerful. I did not plan, by the way, that photo, I did not plan to have it on my website. It just happens to be the new colors of my logo, which is cool. And what's awesome about this new logo is really captivating. Do you know what it is, Myki?
No, what is it? Wait, where am I looking? I'm
go to the very
scrolling.
top of go
back
very
up.
top. Just hit that red button there.
Oh, what right here.
Do you know what that is?
Isn't that when you're looking through the lens of the camera itself?
Yeah.
And that red dot is you're filming, you're live?
What? Thank you. What is when you're filming, what do you say? You say action, right?
Yes. And look at that. I'm not even an actor, and I recognize that.
Good job.
Good job at branding yourself, darling.
Thank you. I'm
look
so
at your little tabs. I really dig this.
So click on register right there at the top.
Okay,
here's what's different. Okay. When I had my old site, we had a database for our eyes only. You would go in, put your info in, your headshot in, and you would never see it. Okay. Oh. It was for us to peruse, us to, search when I'm looking for a Filipino female in her 50s. There you pop up. But right here on this page, it's like all the other websites. It is you actually create a profile, you upload, you get to change a headshot anytime. You can update your resume.
Beautiful.
So that's for the talent. But if you have the looking for talent, that one is actually a client. So if they're looking for actors, guess what? Now I'm connecting clients to my talent.
Look at you.
I'm
Look at you. This is fabulous. You know what? So good, because that's the day and age we live in, right? Isn't it?
Yeah.
You moved out of even like you said, you don't even often have to go physically in to try out. You can send reels, you can do these, you can Zoom. But I love that, the fact that an actor, like you said, you can upload, because we have that ability now with digital media and the internet. So you can always tweak. It's almost like having a dating profile, but for acting, because you want to be able to tweak it so you come up in searches more.
Yeah,
like absolutely. You said, if I were acting and I'm like Filipino, I'm in my 50s, but I can be cast at anything down to 30s because I'm exuberant, right? These are things you would list. So then you come up in that search.
Exactly. And
Oh, it's
that had been the
amazing.
problem for me in the casting side of things, because even clients were like, "Hey, do you have some talent base that I can look at?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "God, I'm so sorry." So our website launch was delayed greatly because of COVID,
Yeah.
but now that we're live and moving into this new chapter, we are going to see more castings, ease of use from the clients, ease of use from the talent. It's mobile friendly. So basically, yeah, we're running with the best of them now.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Congratulations for that
thank you.
incredible, and we're going to talk about what you got last and then we'll finish this out. But when you talked about the colors, that's a marketing branding thing for sure, right? They've
Right.
always said, I don't know how many years it's been, but yellow and red are always the go-to. All of your
Yes.
main logos and brands,
Yeah.
because for some reason it
That's my
incites
old logo.
eating and biting and
Yeah.
buying for some reason, right? Consumerism. The reason I went with these colors, which is a mix actually of red and yellow, is because so the Bad Filipino is just I'm bad at being Filipino. And so, and I'm tropical. And then there's this long going inside joke with some of my friends about want some fruit, because I for those who know me know I don't drink or smoke or do drugs. Like I'm, what do they call that? Straight lace, straight edge. Right. And I'm out late with some friends. We were doing an after party at a friend's house to kind of chill after like a music show. And so everyone else is toasted. I'm, sober. So I drove everyone to the house. And the friend is like, yeah, he's pulling out, like, cause they're going to do some after drinking. But he didn't know what to offer me because he's like,
The
oh
after
shit,
party.
yeah. But it's like after party, like 5 people, just friends chilling. And he's like, he didn't know what to offer me. And he looked at the counter and went, you want some fruit? And I'm gay. So it just, and they're drunk. So we were having the biggest laugh about that.
That's
And
awesome.
I thought my colors for my brand should represent me being from the Pacific Island and the fact that I'm gay and fruit. Like, yeah, here's the colors. So
I love it.
Right? So you put thought into that.
I was orange, girl, so I get it.
I see
was
it.
Orange in my
And
old
now you're
logo.
red. I'd love that new logo too. That's so point on. So now what's the other reveal you have?
So
Do it.
in the quiet days of COVID, I was like, what can I do? What can I do from home and get paid? And I'm like, well, the one thing I had kept doing after I stopped acting, because once I started casting, I'm like, I'm not going to put myself in the mix. That's just weird and maybe not so ethical. So I continued to do voiceover, but I didn't really market myself. So I have been doing voiceover for 20 something years on and off. And then I was like, oh, I'll do some voiceover. So I'll get a mic. Oh, and then I need this and I need that. So I started getting my little home studio set up. So, I'd like to show that to you sometime, see what you think.
Please do. Yes.
And so I started, and then I actually ended up getting an agent, which is great. So I've been auditioning and stuff like that. But I'm like, I've always I have to blame my husband on this one. I thought I always wanted to do a podcast because he talked about it. And I'm like, well, I want to do a podcast. So he still hasn't started his, but I am in the works of launching a podcast. Hopefully, I'm going to say by December.
Yes.
So that you can hold me accountable to that.
Yes.
But that it was a ton of fun, but lots of learnings around that technology, especially. But I got a website. I'm 99% there. I just got to start laying in these episodes. But it's called the Casting Curtain Podcast.
Boom.
Go check it out. CastingCurtainPodcast.com. And know that it's not live. There's 2 episodes on there, just because I was trying to test how to make it go live.
Just do it.
But do watch for that. Best way to find out about updates would be Facebook and Instagram right now. But Savannah is going to help me really start getting more populated on Forcier Casting's page on Instagram, and then also start marketing more on LinkedIn as well. But I'll always put those announcements out there. I love that it's an outlet, another creative outlet. I'm so proud of you, by the way, because you're doing such a great job.
Thank you. That means a lot coming from you. So thank you.
Well, I look at all of it. I'm looking at your branding, the setup, the experience. I mean, this girl's patient. Let me tell you guys, you listeners and viewers, I'm not the easiest person to tie down and commit to something like this, because I'm always running in 10 different directions. But she would send emails and then send a reminder email, and then and then log in 20 minutes early. I'm like, oh crap, it's 10 minutes. I got to go. I'm just constantly running. So I appreciate your patience with me. And I think, to all the women entrepreneurs out there, I just want you guys to be encouraged and know that, you have dreams for a reason. And I believe everybody has gifts that the world needs. And especially now, the world's not a super kind, happy place. And I just want to encourage you to lean into opportunity and take advantage of the time you have or the dreams you have, and know that they're going to help inspire someone. So, get a piece of paper and start brain dumping and just start doing it. Don't be afraid.
I love it. Brain dumping. Yes.
Yeah.
Sally, I want to thank you so much for literally carving out time. I know how busy you are.
Oh, it's been fun.
And being on my show. Yes. And learning about, so everyone, there's the website. Follow Sally Forcier and Forcier Casting on all their socials, because you've got that new podcast coming up, the Casting Curtain podcast, and a new website. So those actors, aspiring actors, those looking for actors, I'm telling you, she's the one to work with.
Hey, I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I would love to put actors to work and connect clients to actors so that they have amazing projects. So I'm here to help in any capacity. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So this is Myki Angeline signing off the Bad Filipino podcast, reminding everybody that every day you wake up, it is you who determines how your day will go. So let us all do our best to manifest a kick-ass rest of